It just started out, like I said, started out with the pompous, feisty, and then it all came about with the writing. Like they give me an argument, then when you're home, you could be more yourself, Then
The hidden secrets behind Friends. For those who grew up watching Friends, prepare to discover shocking truths that will completely change your view of television's most beloved series. What you're about to discover about Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, Matthew Perry, and David Schwimmer will leave you speechless. Secret rivalries, hidden addictions, forbidden romances, and a tragedy that almost destroyed the group forever. These are the stories they never wanted you to know. Do you believe you know everything about Friends? Think again. Behind the laughter and seemingly perfect chemistry, there were dark secrets that are only now coming to light. Jennifer Aniston, the hidden pressure. Let's start with Jennifer Aniston, the Rachel Green who conquered the entire world. But did you know that Jennifer almost didn't get the role? And even more shocking, she hated her own hair. The famous Rachel haircut that became a worldwide craze was actually an accident. Hairstylist Chris McMillan was experimenting with a new technique, and Jennifer was horrified with the result. She said in interviews that she hated that cut, that it was impossible to style. But it was this mistake that transformed her into a global fashion icon. However, Jennifer Aniston's real secret is much deeper. During filming, she was going through a devastating personal crisis. Her father, John Aniston, had cut off relations with her after discovering that Jennifer had rejected a role in his soap opera to do Friends. The pressure was so intense that Jennifer developed severe anxiety. She would arrive on set taking medication just to be able to memorize her lines. But here's the most shocking secret. Jennifer Aniston was secretly in love with David Schwimmer throughout the entire first season. In 2021, during the special reunion, they finally admitted that there was real passion between them, but they never got together because one of them was always in a relationship. Imagine how difficult it must have been to pretend to be just friends on screen when there were so many feelings involved behind the scenes. Jennifer also revealed that she suffered from severe dyslexia, something she kept secret for years. She had to study her scripts 3 times more than the other actors to be able to memorize them. Often, she would make up her own lines because she couldn't memorize exactly what was written. Matthew Perry, The Battle Against Demons. Matthew Perry, our sarcastic Chandler Bing, hid one of Hollywood's most painful battles. Throughout the entire series, Matthew was fighting a devastating addiction to alcohol and painkillers. What started as a few drinks to calm his nerves transformed into a dependency that almost ended his career and his life. You can notice in the episodes how Matthew changed physically. In seasons where he was thinner, it was because he was abusing stimulants. When he was more bloated, it was because of alcohol. He was hospitalized multiple times during filming, but the production kept everything secret. Here's a frightening fact. Matthew Perry doesn't remember filming 3 entire seasons of Friends. His addiction was so advanced that he was functioning on autopilot. He said he watched those episodes years later as if it were the first time, because he really had no memory of having filmed them. The most touching part is that his castmates knew everything and constantly tried to help him. Jennifer Aniston even confronted him directly, saying she could smell alcohol on him during scenes. But Matthew was a master at hiding his problem. He would memorize not only his own lines, but everyone else's, so no one would notice when he was confused. In 2018, Matthew had a colon perforation due to opioid abuse and almost died. He spent months in an induced coma. It was only then that he decided to tell his real story to help other people. Matthew Perry died in October 2023, found in his jacuzzi. The cause of death was related to the long-term effects of his drug addiction. Courtney Cox, the obsessive perfectionist. Courtney Cox, our Monica Geller, took her character's perfectionism into real life in a concerning way. She developed a sickly obsession with plastic surgery that almost destroyed her career. Courtney publicly admitted that she became addicted to aesthetic procedures. She had so many surgeries that she reached a point where she no longer recognized herself in the mirror. Excessive Botox, fillers, multiple facelifts. She desperately tried to stop time. The result was that she ended up with a completely different and unrecognizable appearance. But Courtney's deepest secret is that she suffers from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, just like her character Monica. The difference is that in real life, this caused serious problems. During filming, she would constantly rearrange the set, even when it wasn't her scene. The other actors would arrive and find furniture in different positions because Courtney couldn't control herself. She also had strange rituals. She needed to touch certain surfaces a specific number of times before starting to film. If someone interrupted her ritual, she had to start all over again. This constantly delayed filming, but no one had the courage to confront her because she was one of the executive producers. Courtney revealed that her obsession with cleanliness and organization came from childhood trauma. Her parents divorced when she was little, and she developed the belief that if she kept everything perfectly organized, she could control the chaos in her life. Lisa Kudrow, the rejected intellectual. Lisa Kudrow, our beloved Phoebe Buffay, hides one of the most surprising stories of the cast. Before being an actress, Lisa was a serious scientific researcher, specializing in biology. She even worked with her father, a renowned neurologist, researching headaches and genetic inheritance patterns. Lisa felt like an imposter on the Friends set. She had a PhD and was accustomed to rigorous academic environments. Suddenly, she was surrounded by actors who had dropped out of school to pursue artistic careers. She confessed that she often felt too smart to be there, ironically. But here's the most shocking secret. Lisa Kudrow was almost fired from Friends. During the first episodes, the producers thought she was forcing Phoebe's eccentricity too much. They even considered replacing her. It was only the intervention of James Burrows, an influential director, that saved her job. Lisa developed an interesting technique to portray Phoebe. She studied people with personality disorders and incorporated real characteristics into her performance. Many of Phoebe's seemingly random lines were based on psychological studies that Lisa had read. Lisa's relationship with the other actors was more distant. She didn't participate in the group's parties and social gatherings. She preferred to stay home reading scientific papers and maintaining contact with the academic world. This created a strange dynamic where Phoebe was the closest of friends on screen, but Lisa was the most isolated behind the scenes. Matt LeBlanc. The accident that changed everything. Matt LeBlanc, our Joey Tribbiani, went through a traumatic experience that almost ended his career before Friends even took off. During filming of the second season, Matt suffered a serious accident that dislocated his shoulder. But he hid the severity of the injury so he wouldn't lose his job. Matt continued filming with a dislocated shoulder for weeks. He took heavy painkillers between scenes and wore a hidden sling under his clothes whenever possible, the writers had, to rewrite several scenes to minimize Joey's right arm movements. But the real drama in Matt LeBlanc's life came after Friends. He was so identified with Joey that he couldn't get other roles. He spent years unemployed, spent his entire Friends fortune, and reached the point where he didn't have money to put gas in his car. He lived in a tiny apartment and ate instant noodles every day. Matt developed severe depression and started drinking heavily. He confessed that he even considered suicide during this period. What saved his life was his daughter, Marina. When she was born, Matt decided he needed to fight to be present in her life. The most touching story is that Matt sold all his friends' belongings, including original scripts and memorabilia, to pay his bills. Years later, when he finally achieved financial stability with the series episodes, he tried to buy back some of these items, but they had disappeared into private collections. David Schwimmer, the frustrated director. David Schwimmer, our paleontologist. Ross Geller had much bigger ambitions than just acting. He wanted to be a director and producer, but friends imprisoned him in a character he secretly despised. David hated playing Ross. He thought the character was pathetic and annoying. In later interviews, he admitted that he felt embarrassed by many of the jokes and situations Ross got involved in. He constantly suggested script changes that the writers ignored. David's relationship with Jennifer Aniston behind the scenes was complicated. While she was in love with him, David was more interested in impressing the producers with his creative ideas. He would write alternative scripts and present directing proposals that were always rejected. David had a controlling personality that deeply irritated the other actors. He questioned every creative decision and tried to take control of situations that weren't his responsibility. Matt LeBlanc even confronted him publicly during a cast meeting, saying that David was being disrespectful. David's most painful secret is that he developed severe social phobia due to Friends' fame. He couldn't leave home without being recognized and harassed. This led him to become increasingly reclusive. He reached the point of using elaborate disguises just to go to the supermarket. After Friends, David moved to Chicago and focused on theater, desperately trying to escape Ross Geller's shadow. But even in serious theatrical productions, audiences would laugh at his dramatic performances because they could only see Ross on stage. The set secrets. Now let's reveal the most shocking secrets that happened behind the scenes during filming. The Friends set wasn't the harmonious place it appeared to be. There were constant tensions, rivalries, and even sabotage among the actors. The famous rule that all 6 actors would receive the same salary caused much more drama than benefits. Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox thought they deserved more money because they were considered the main stars. This created a silent resentment that lasted throughout the entire series. Lisa Kudrow discovered that the producers were paying extra stunt doubles for Jennifer and Courtney in scenes that didn't require stunt doubles, just to inflate their salaries in a disguised way. When Lisa confronted the production, they offered her the same scheme, which she refused on principle. During the 4th season, there was a physical fight between Matt LeBlanc and David Schwimmer. Matt was frustrated with David's constant interference and pushed him against a wall. Security had to separate them. This incident was completely covered up by the production, but created permanent tension between the two. The final episode of Friends almost didn't happen. Matthew Perry was hospitalized in a rehabilitation clinic and refused to leave to film. The producers had to threaten to sue him for breach of contract. Matthew only agreed to return when Jennifer Aniston personally went to the clinic to beg him to finish the series. The tragedy that almost destroyed everything. In 1997, during the 3rd season, an event happened that almost canceled Friends forever. Courtney Cox suffered a miscarriage that left her in a state of deep emotional shock. She refused to leave her dressing room and cried constantly. The other actors tried to console her, but Courtney was inconsolable. She blamed the stress of filming for losing the baby. For weeks, she could barely say her lines without breaking down in tears. The producers considered taking a break from the series or even canceling it. It was Jennifer Aniston who saved the situation. She convinced Courtney to seek professional help and promised that the cast would do group therapy to support her. They actually did several collective therapy sessions, something unprecedented in Hollywood at the time. The most touching part is that the writers incorporated Monica's pregnancy into the series as a way to honor the baby that Courtney had lost. Monica's infertility story was based on Courtney's real experience, making her performances even more emotional and authentic. The Hidden Legacy. Friends ended in 2004, but the secrets and traumas from behind the scenes continued to haunt the cast for decades. Matthew Perry never fully recovered from his addiction. Lisa Kudrow developed agoraphobia and rarely appears in public. David Schwimmer still struggles with social phobia. Jennifer Aniston became the most successful of the group, but she admits she carries guilt for not helping Matthew Perry more effectively. Courtney Cox spent years in therapy working on her obsession with perfection. Matt LeBlanc found peace, but only after losing almost everything. The Friends special reunion in 2021 was a bittersweet event. For the first time in decades, the six actors were genuinely happy to be together. They had finally resolved their differences and traumas. But it was also painful to see how each had been marked by the experience. Matthew Perry was visibly fragile. During the reunion, he could barely articulate words due to neurological damage caused by years of substance abuse. 2 years later, he was no longer with us. So the next time you watch Friends, remember that behind every laugh, there were real tears. Behind every joke, there was genuine pain. And behind the on-screen friendship, there were complex human beings, fighting against their own demons. Friends taught us about friendship, love, and loyalty. But the real lesson is in the courage of these six actors who, despite all the problems and secrets, managed to create something that brought joy to millions of people around the world. That's the true legacy of Friends. Not perfection, but the imperfect humanity that we all share.